Alright, so it's up to you whether you want to have this as a separate video or if you even want to include this in your review. It's up to you. So I decided to listen to the Royce da 5'9" album that you're reviewing, the Allegory, because I was making some thumbnails for someone. I'm like, fuck it, let me listen to this. That way when your review comes out, you know, I'll have more knowledge of what you're talking about. So I don't know what you'll think of it in terms of the album itself, but what I'll say about the project from my first listen is that I thought it was pretty bad. The only song I liked on the album was Tricked with King Crooked. That was a good song. It had good production. But other than that, I really didn't enjoy the album. I just feel like musically it was very poor, boring. The beats were awful. A lot of the features were wasted. You get Eminem on the album, and instead of putting him on a song, you put him on a skit, which is a waste. T.I.'s on the album, but it doesn't really make for a good song, unfortunately. Another issue I have with the album, I don't mean to get into this territory, but since the album talks about this, I have to talk about it. Another issue I have with the album is it comes off as way too one-sided and way too preachy. The whole album, you can just tell from the beginning that the message and mentality Royce went with this project is, let's speak out on black racism, pro-black kind of thing. And look, I have nothing against someone wanting to speak out against racism of a race that they're a part of. I have no issue with that. Tupac did it back in the day. But number one, his approach, I think, is what made the album sound so poor musically. Maybe Royce just couldn't execute it musically in a good way, or just maybe what he wanted to talk about just doesn't make for appealing music. And then number two, my problem with his approach to this album, you know, this pro-black thing he's going for in this album, and, you know, black people are victims, racism against black people. Another issue I have with that on this album is it's too one-sided. It just feels like, woe is me, you know, this and that. It's like, dude, there is racism out there towards other races. Why don't you speak out about racism in general? Why does it have to be this one-sided project where it's just, oh, we got to talk about racism towards blacks. We got to be pro-black. To be pro of a race is racist, in my opinion. You know, you can't be against racism and talk about how you're tired of racist stuff happening to your people when you turn around and vote. You turn around and talk about pro stuff. You can't be pro of a race. That's racism. That's the equivalent of what racism is. What do you think KKK and neo-Nazis are? They're pro of their own race. You can't be pro-black but then turn around and say you don't like racism. It's either one or the other. Pick. So not only does the album sound bad musically, and I did not enjoy it, biggest issue was the production. I didn't like the subject matter and overall topic approach. You know, it went for this pro-black, racism is bad, you know, talking about racist stuff that happened to black people. That's the approach it went for. And my issue with it is it's too one-sided. It's too one-sided. It's way too in your face with it. It's overly preachy. It's almost like Royce is trying to shoot a fucking nuke at our face. It's like, we get it. We get it, dude. You know, like it's overly done. You know, there's ways to do this in music, and it just feels like he's shooting a fucking nuke at your face. It's like, we get it. You know, it's just like with, you know, how Eminem with Revival, or maybe even Kamikaze, when he kept responding to the Revival criticism, it's like, Eminem, we get it. It's just like with the Trump stuff. We get it, and we get it. You know? And Royce just, it felt like I was getting bazookaed at, you know. It was overly preachy. It was too one-sided. You know, there's nothing wrong with speaking out against racism, you know, towards black people, but you should be more equal, because racism just doesn't happen to black people. It also happens to Asians. It also happens to white people, you know. It happens to all races. And my problem with the project is it's too one-sided. If you're going to make an album where you're talking about racism and shit like that, why don't you attack all territories, you know? But instead, Royce went for this approach of, let me be pro-black, and let me only talk about black racism, even though there's racism happening to other races. It felt too one-sided, it felt overly preachy, and it felt overdone. It felt like Royce was trying to bazooka at your face with what he was getting across. It was just overly preachy, you know? And I hate what Royce da 5'9" has become. Royce da 5'9" has become one of these, I don't know what you would call it, because I'm not super in-depth with politics, liberal, I don't know. But Royce da 5'9" has become one of these guys who has like this victim complex of, I'm a victim because I'm black, and I'm going to talk about the other black people because they're victims. It's like, you're not a victim. you're a victim of racism, which is what other races deal with. But it's just annoying because Royce the 5'9" has become this person now where it's woe is me, I'm a victim, black people are victims. He's become one of those kind of people, and the result, it makes for not appealing music, you know. And I'm not saying that I have to relate or agree with a message in music. Let me get that straight real quick. You know, topic and message, you don't have to necessarily agree with it in a lot of cases. Like if this was a dope album, you know, I could maybe look past the other stuff I'm talking about, you know. So I'm not saying that, you know, but since I don't like the album musically, this is another problem with it, you know. So it's like, yeah, overall, my opinion on The Allergy by Royce the 5'9" is it's a pretty terrible album. I give it a 1 out of 10. The only song I liked was Tricked. The T.I. feature on there was wasted. Eminem was wasted on a skit. He should have been on a song that could have helped the album somewhat. And I just don't like how one-sided the album was. It goes for this, you know, let's talk about, you know, the racism towards blacks, which is fine if you want to speak out on that. It's fine. And like I said, even if I feel differently or have my own beliefs and opinions, I could maybe put that aside if the music was dope, but the music isn't dope. It's terrible. I did not enjoy this album, you know? It's like, you know, like I said, even if I don't agree with the message or topic, or I feel differently about what the artist is talking about, if the music is still dope, I can mess with it, you know? I can mess with it. Like, for example, one word I don't use anymore in my vocabulary is the F slur, F-A-G-G-O-T. I don't use that word anymore. I don't like that word. But my favorite rapper uses it. And I disagree with his use of it, you know. But, you know, I just leave it at that. I still like his music, you know. And it's the same thing here with Royce. I disagree with how he approached this, you know. I feel differently when it comes to, like, being against racism. Because I think if you want to be against racism, or if you want to be one of these people that fight racism, you have to fight it in general. You can't just be one-sided, you know, and have this special mentality. It's like, dude, like, your own race has been racist to your own race. Your own race has been racist to Asians. Like, we need to be, there just needs a more equal ground here, okay? But musically, the project is poor. Like I said, the biggest problem with this Royce the 5'9" project is the production. It's very poor. I didn't care for it. And I think Royce the 5'9" making a project like this, especially with the approach of pro-black, like a racism type topic, I think that is what maybe made the music not really good, you know? There's like there really ain't no like club party songs on here. There's no party songs where Royce is maybe get going out having some fun. You know, there's no horrorcore. There's no like party song. You know, there's nothing like that. It's just not good in my opinion. So that's my opinion. That's what I think of this project. Like I said, you can either put this in your review or you can put it in a separate video. But since you're reviewing this album, I figured I'd give my opinion. I don't know what you'll think of the project, but after my first listen, I really wasn't a fan of it. Only song I liked was Trick. I feel like the production was poor. Just not really fun to listen to. And it's like all these years later, the latest Royce project, and he still just can't make good music. He still can't put together a good album, you know. And like I said, I already said what I needed to say about the topic and messages of the album. It's fine that he wants to speak out against racism towards his own race, but my issue is it's so shot in your face that it's like he's trying to bazooka it at you. It's like, we get it, and it's too one-sided, you know. And to be pro-black to me is just the equivalent of being racist, because you're wanting to be pro of a race. But, you know, if the album was dope, I could put that aside. Because like I said, my favorite rapper of all time says certain things I don't agree with, you know. Like my favorite rapper, you know, in some of his songs, he's used the F slur, which I don't agree with that because I dropped that word from my vocabulary. But I put it to the side because I still like his music. You know, at the end of the day, it's what he likes to use. I don't really like to use it anymore, you know. So that's my opinion overall on the project. Really wasn't a fan of it. Disappointing. You know, I think Royce should have just went for more of a makeshift album. He should have went for something just more fun. You know, he should have went for something more fun. You know, if you want to talk about serious topics, you should learn from like Eminem and Tupac. You know, they actually did these things right. Ice Cube, you know, NWA. You know, and NWA had a song speaking out against police, and it worked because not only was the message strong, but it made for a compelling song. You know, Fuck the Police isn't just a song that's good because of its topic. It's good because it's a good song. And I think Royce da 5'9" should learn from things like that, where if you want to get political or whatever you want to talk about, you have to make sure it makes for appealing music. And Royce da 5'9" has just failed. He's utterly failed to take what he wanted to talk about with this project and turning into something appealing musically. And that's what I got to say about it overall. And like I said, the project overall just it has no party songs, it has no horrorcore songs. It's just not a fun project to listen to. It's very Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly-esque, like, if I had to say. It goes for a message and talking about something important, but musically, I feel like it's either two things. One, because of what he went with is why the music was poor, or two, he can't make good music based around something serious. It's one of those two. But the project itself was just very poor. I didn't enjoy it. I was bored. The production sucked. He wasted the features. One of the worst songs on the album is Overcomer with Westside Gunn. Good God, that song was terrible. Westside Gunn's voice is so fucking annoying. Oh my God, dude. One of the worst rap voices I ever fucking heard in my life. His rap voice is so fucking annoying. And that's the song where he also actually takes a shot at Yellow Wolf. Now, if Yellow Wolf did do something crazy, then I can understand why Royce dissed him. But I wish Royce would have went in more depth rather than just taking a few shots at Yellow Wolf. It's like, give us some more emphasis on that, Royce. Please. I mean, come on, So, yeah, the project was very poor. Didn't care for it. Bad production. Just unappealing songs. No club songs. No fun songs. No horrorcore type tracks. Nothing like Caterpillar or Fastlane or We Deep with Trick Trick or even something like Boom or Rock City or Security. Nothing Royce has done in the past that was good every now and then. Just nothing fun on there, And a lot of that has to do with how Royce has kind of changed as a person on top of the approach he went for. Like I said, either the approach he went for is what made for the music to be boring, or he can't just execute it in a good way. Because some artists can execute serious topics into good music, but maybe Royce isn't one of them. I don't know.